an explanation about English pronunciation and English phonetics, and the oh. Hi, my name is Mohan Ambar, co-founder of PolyTripper, and welcome to part 2 of how to learn any language. And if you haven't signed up through the website, I highly encourage you to do so because we have nice PDF documents which go along with the lessons. And in particular today, we have a nice document with nicely formatted tables with the grammar concepts we're going to learn. So sign up, the link is below, https://polytripper.com/secret.html. And again, this course isn't about how to learn a specific language like Spanish or French or something like that, but it's basically techniques that you'll need to learn any language. And I've been learning languages for over 30 years now, and I've distilled a number of these concepts into this course, and I'm happy to share these with you because like I said, I love languages, and we at PolyTripper love helping people learn languages. So anyway, let's dive into it. Today we're going to be talking about grammar, and grammar is very important in my mind. A lot of people will try to convince you that grammar isn't important. A lot of people will tell you that you should be like a baby, learn like a baby. Babies don't learn grammar. Babies grow up just like talking with their parents or their preschool teachers or whatever, and the grammar just kind of comes. And that you should be like the baby. Don't be a baby, okay? First of all, like I said in the first lesson, not losing interest in your language learning is probably the most important thing. So if grammar is so off-putting, if you're one of the people that I won't be able to convince that grammar is important, that investing just a tiny little bit of time in learning grammatical concepts isn't important, then by all means, forget the grammar, forget this lesson, and focus on whatever techniques that you need to use in order to not lose interest. Because the bottom line is when you're learning something that you're not forced to learn, then the biggest danger is losing interest. Okay, so don't be that person. Don't lose interest. If you feel yourself starting to lose interest, reach out to me. We're actual real people that respond to these emails. We're very small right now, and so I can afford to do individual outreach, which I absolutely love doing, and especially because I'm passionate about languages, I like helping people who learn languages. So yeah, don't lose interest, but then again, don't be deluded into thinking that grammar is very scary and off-putting and that you should be a baby and not learn grammar, because that's also not true. And I want to try to convince you in the rest of this video that you should, with minimal time expenditure, and I'm talking like maybe 15 minutes to a half an hour, you can learn enough grammatical concepts to give you a massive head start in your language learning endeavor. So just bear with me, and I promise you won't be disappointed by the end of this lesson. So again, don't lose interest, but don't be a baby. Don't don't be scared into thinking that you have to be a baby in order to learn a language, and that you shouldn't learn any grammar, because you have so many things that a baby doesn't. You have a massive head start over being a baby, so don't be that baby, okay? Um, I'm going to go over some grammatical concepts. I've got the really nice PDF here, which you can also get if you sign up for this course through the email. And I'll just go over these concepts one by one and show you that basically, like a kid learning their multiplication tables, presumably my target audience typically has like a college education, and so typically you've learned your multiplication tables in school, and if I ask you what's 5 times 8, you'll be able to answer 40. And if not, then chances are you remember learning those multiplication tables and you knew them at one point in time. And I'm not asking you to actually memorize anything now. What I'm saying is this is going to be easier than learning your multiplication tables, and with a minimum of time investment, we can get through enough grammatical concepts that'll make it much easier for you to read a textbook, a language textbook in another language. Now, I have to say that these concepts won't apply to languages like non-Western languages like Chinese or Japanese, because they don't use the same notions of, I mean, I guess you have notions of noun, verb, and things like that, but the things I'm going to discuss here are typical to learning Western languages like Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, German, Swedish, Danish, what have you. Um, but but then again, when you learn some of these concepts, you will be helped when you learn things like Chinese, because Chinese also has verbs. Actually, the Chinese grammar is much easier than English grammar, but you still need to know what a noun and a verb is, for example. So anyway, I'll go through these, and the interesting thing is that as an American, you may not realize, but by being that baby and by having learned a language, you have assimilated like some really complex grammatical concepts, and you've assimilated a lot of things as an English speaker that are not that easy for foreign language speakers. Actually, even when I hear people who speak a foreign language very, like who speak English very well, they will still make mistakes, like putting the accent on the wrong syllable, for example. Even the word syllable, like I know that the word syllable gets the syllable on the first syllable of the word syllable, but things like ostentatious, for example, where the accent goes on the third syllable, or things like magnanimous, where it goes on the second syllable. That those kind of things are not easy for non-English speakers. And whereas in a language like Spanish or French, once you learn the pronunciation rules, you can pretty much read everything. That's not true of English. In fact, as a child, I remember reading an article about English pronunciation, and as an example of how difficult English pronunciation is, they gave us the word GHOTI. And the question was, how do you pronounce this word? It's a fake word, but how do you pronounce this fake word in English? GHOTI. And the answer was fish. And I thought, huh? My 7-year-old self thought, huh? And the reason why is because GH is the F sound in words like rough or tough. The O sound is the I sound in the word women, and the TI letters are the sound sh in nation or redemption or whatever. And so GHOTI is fish. Anyway, that's just a made up example to show you the difficulties of English pronunciation and how you already have mastered that. And also with things like syllabification, like I told you, even syllabification, I wouldn't even be able to tell you what syllable that falls on if you just showed me the word, but I just know it because I learned it as a child. And even, like I said, even the best English speakers, one of the things you can tell, just like the Terminator, like when you can always tell that it's a Terminator because the dogs are barking. You can tell, typically you can tell if it's a non-English speaker by hearing them make syllabification mistakes when they say English words. And so anyway, next time, listen for that. If you have an attentive ear, listen for that, just if you want to amuse yourself. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so anyway, you have mastered a lot of difficult grammatical concepts without knowing it. And the things that I'm going to go over today are much easier to understand, but I'm going to just go over them. Don't be scared. It's like about a 15 to 30 minute time investment, and you'll be fine. You will survive. You're a strong person. You will survive. I have faith in you. Okay. And plus, you will have a massive head start with learning other things compared to all these other methods which delude you into stuff, to thinking that this stuff is scary and unnecessary. Okay. So let's just start. We'll start with the verb tenses. We've got present, present progressive, present perfect, present participle, past participle, preterite, and past perfect, or the pluperfect. Okay, really scary stuff. It sounds like, oh my God, let me run away. No, don't run away. It's actually not that bad. Okay, typically, academic stuff is just scary words mapped to not too scary concepts. Okay, so if you can wrap your head around that principle, that if you see these scary concepts and they just map to simple things, then just accept the fact that, just like learning your times tables, if you could just accept the fact that simple things have scary names, then that'll be like 90% of the battle won. Okay, so let's start with the present tense. The present tense, I eat. Okay, present progressive, I am eating. Okay, already the fact that in English we have a distinction between I eat and I am eating gives us a nuanced way to say things which you don't have in languages like Swedish, for example. In Swedish, it's jag äter, okay, and it's the same thing for I eat or I am eating. Okay, so Swedish people, when they learn English, they have to learn how to disambiguate the two instances where you would say I eat and I am eating, whereas you already know that subconsciously. So just think about the massive advantage you have knowing English compared to other people who don't. Okay, the present perfect is I have eaten. Okay, and this is also a source of difficulty for a lot of say French speakers, for example, because in French, j'ai mangé is I ate and I have eaten. Okay, whereas you actually have two different words, I eat and I have eaten, to distinguish two different things, and you automatically know which to use. I can explain to you which to use. I have eaten means that you just finished eating something, and the fact that you've just finished it kind of blends into the next thing you want to say. Um, Whereas I ate means that it's like a more specific period in the past, but I don't actually need to teach you those things because you already know those subconsciously. I just want to give you the terminology for those two things. So present, I eat; present progressive, I am eating; present perfect, I have eaten. Okay, the present participle is eating. The past participle is eaten. That's the thing that comes after the I have. I have eaten. Okay, and you notice that eat is an irregular verb. If you look at regular verbs, like the word talk in English is a regular verb, and it's I talk, I talked, I have talked. Okay, so it's talk, talk, talked. For Germanic languages like English, German, Dutch, Swedish, you learn a verb conjugation by learning its present tense, its preterite, and its past participle. Okay, and the past participle is eaten, like I just said. So in English, you would learn talk, talk, talked. Of course, you haven't, you know that already, but you don't say I eat, I eated, I eated, I have eated. You say I eat, I ate, I have eaten. And so that's why eat is an irregular verb. And just like English has irregular verbs, see, saw, I had saw, I had seen. See, saw, seen. See, I don't even know this by heart. Okay, see, saw, seen. Okay, I see, I saw, I had seen. Okay, lots of other languages have irregular verbs too. So when you see the word irregular verb, all that means is a verb that you have to memorize the conjugation of because it's not naturally derived from the rules you know, like talk, 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 where you just slap an ed to the end of it. Okay, so now you've got the preterite, I ate. Okay, and again, French people don't have a way to distinguish between I ate and I have eaten other than using what they call the passé simple, which you don't use in spoken language. And so it's kind of difficult to disambiguate those two things for non-English speakers of certain languages. And finally, the past perfect or the pluperfect is I had eaten, and that's typically an action that you want to mention has happened before another action which has happened in the past. I had eaten dinner and then the doorbell rang, for example. I had eaten dinner, that's the pluperfect. When the doorbell rang, that's the preterite. And again, rang is the preterite of ring, and that's also an irregular verb that you as an English speaker happen to have the conjugation in your head, but which foreign language speakers have to learn. Ring, rang, rung. The bell rang, the bell rings, the bell rings, the bell rang, the bell had rung. Okay, so don't underestimate how good you are at learning foreign languages because you've already done this. Okay, and all you have to do is hold your breath and understand that they've attached scary sounding terms to things that you already know. Okay, so just focus on what you know and accept that there's scary sounding terms with that, and then life will be a lot easier. But it behooves you to learn those scary terms because a lot of textbooks will talk about those things. They'll talk about irregular verbs, they'll talk about the past participle, they'll talk about irregular past participles, especially when learning Western languages, like I said. So just take the time. I'm walking you through this. It's okay. It's warm, fuzzy. We're all in a safe space, you know. So just be okay. Okay. Here are some other advanced tenses, verb tenses, which are less frequently used. There's the future perfect. I will have eaten, and that's describing something in the future that you will already have done before another future action occurs. I will have eaten before you come. Okay. Conditional present. I would eat. That means that something is not something. It's conditional. It's not a given that's going to happen. It's going to happen contingent on something else already happening. I would eat the apple if you ate that banana, for example. Conditional past, I would have eaten. I would have eaten that banana if you had eaten that apple. Okay, that's the conditional past. And here, note that the conditional past goes with the pluperfect. I would have eaten that apple if you had eaten that apple. Not I would have eaten that apple if you would have eaten that apple. No, please don't do that. I beg you. Lots of people do that. Don't be that person. I would have eaten that apple if you had eaten that apple. Okay. We also have a couple of, when you learn things like Spanish and French, you learn that there's subjunctive in those languages. And a lot of people are surprised to learn that we English speakers also have a subjunctive. It's not used as often, but it definitely is used, and it definitely should be used in a lot of places that English speakers don't use it negligently, but they should use it. For example, if you say "Long live the Queen," the present tense of that, the Queen lives long, okay? But you don't say "Long lives the Queen," even though that's the way you conjugate the word "lives" with the word "queen." It's "Long live the Queen." So we use the subjunctive there too in English. Subjunctive past, if I were you. You don't say if I was you, if I were you. So there again, we're using the subjunctive in English. So when you're scared about languages where you have to learn the subjunctive, just remember we have a subjunctive too, okay? And people who want to learn our language well have to learn those conjugations too, okay? The imperative, an order, come here, be quiet. Note that it's not are quiet, you are quiet, it's be quiet. So there again, it's the imperative form, okay? And finally, we've got the gerund, swimming. Swimming is fun. And swimming is nothing more, the gerund is nothing more than the ing form of the verb used as a noun. Swimming is fun. Running is healthy. You can take a verb and turn it into a noun by adding an ing at the end of it. And we'll talk about what nouns and verbs are in a moment, okay? So I've just blown through all of these things with kind of like rambling explanations, but again, you've got the document where I explain all of this much more concisely. I'm just trying to be more folksy and anecdotal in my explanations of these things. Okay, and I've covered the fact that we have irregular verbs too: see, saw, seen; ring, rang, rung; sing, sang, sung; bring, brang, brung. Just kidding. It's bring, brought, brought. So don't. Just kidding. Okay, let's go over some other grammatical terms. We've got noun, verb, adjective, adverb, indefinite article, definite article, subject, preposition. Ooh, I'm going to break these up a little bit. Okay, let's just cover this first part here. A noun. A noun is a person, place, or thing. Okay, so things like Mr. Bill, Justice, the book, they're all person, places, or things. Okay. It's a concrete thing or an idea. A verb is an action verb: to look, to think, to eat. Okay, those are all action verbs. And you can also have action verbs that happen inside your head: to think, to feel, to perceive. Okay, those are all kind of action verbs, but they're not really actions, so to speak, physical actions. Adjective: green, ugly, tall are examples of adjectives. Adjectives change other nouns. So if you say the green book, then you're attributing something to the book and changing you're basically specifying a property of the book by mentioning an adjective associated with that book. And typically, typically it's an adjective if you can say it is very something. It is very green. It is very tall. It is very happy. Okay, you know those are adjectives because they work. They sound okay in your head after it is very. Whereas if you say it is very tree, it is very garden hose, it is very justice, that sounds weird. Okay, so an adjective is it is very something. Okay, an adverb. Typically an adverb ends with an ly. Adverbs modify other verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. I'll give you an example of an adjective modifying a verb. He runs quickly. Okay, he runs stands alone, but you can tack on an adverb to say how he runs. He runs quickly. Here's an adverb modifying an adjective. It's awfully small. Okay. He eats quite quickly. There, quite is an adverb which modifies the other adverb, quickly. Okay, so adverbs modify adjectives, verbs, or other adverbs. And again, I'm not asking you to memorize this off the top of your head like the times tables. All I'm asking you to do is give yourself a passing familiarity with these words like I'm doing now, so that the next time you see them in a textbook you don't freak out and you can actually refer to this document and then take your deep breaths or whatever meditative exercises you need to do in order to like walk yourself off the ledge and calm yourself down, and not be freaked out by these grammatical concepts, because they're really not that difficult. It's just egg-headed, scary academic words with really simple concepts. Indefinite article, a or an, okay? An apple, a book. The only reason that there are two of these words and not one is because it depends on whether the word that follows the indefinite article has a vowel or not. You say an apple, you don't say a apple. You don't say a egg, you say an egg. Okay, so that's why you use an, because a vowel follows it. And with a, it's a non-vowel that follows it. A garden hose, a tree, a leaf. Okay. Definite article, the. We've only got one of them. German has three. German has actually way more than three if you count the other declinations like nominative, accusative, dative, genitive. Okay, so be thankful. English is a lot simpler than other languages, but you can use these notions as a springboard to understand when they talk about the definite article in German. You're like, oh, that's kind of like our the translated to German. Okay, and so then it's not that difficult. Subject. A subject is the noun phrase before the verb. The ball is on the table. Okay, that's the subject, but anything that goes before the verb is also the subject. The pretty pink green ball is on the table. The pretty, I don't know, I'm just making this up. The tall slender glass is on the table. Okay, the tall slender glass, the pretty pink ball, that's the subject of the sentence. And again, I'm not asking you to understand why this is the case. I'm just asking you to just kind of get a passing, kind of just let it sink in, so that the next time you need to refer to these things, you can refer to that in the worksheet that we have that you can download from that website I told you at the beginning of this video. Preposition. Prepositions are connecting words like on, above, for, about, under, to, through, beneath. The book is on the table. On is a preposition. The book is above the table. The book is below the table. And the entire phrase on the table, below the table, under the table, that's called a prepositional phrase. And the way that I like to reason about prepositional phrases is that they can stand in for adverbs. The book is on the table. That's where the book is. And adverbs can also tell you, is that true? Can adverbs say where something is? I think so. Adverbs is like time, place, or manner, I think, from what I remember. So see, I don't even know all of this, but I know enough of it to be able to decipher grammar books written in other languages. So that's what a preposition is. And feel free to use our friend Google to expound on these more and more. There are a lot of articles that go into this much more detail on the internet, but I'm just covering really the basics that fit on a couple of sheets so that you have more than a passing knowledge and you aren't scared. And so my strategy for you for listening to this video is just take it all in, maybe play it once or twice, refer to the thing, and then just use this as a reference the next time that you need to the next time you encounter these, you need to know what these terms are in whatever language course you're studying. Direct object, that's a noun phrase that goes after a verb without a preposition. I see the ball. Okay? Contrast this to an indirect object, which is something which usually takes a preposition in English. I give the book to him. It doesn't always have to have a preposition. You can also have the sentence, I give him the book. Okay? In the sentence, I give him the book, him is the indirect object, and the book is the direct object. Yes, that is right. I give him the book. Yes, because you can say I give the book to him. So you're going to need to know what these things are, because in other languages, like German, for example, the indirect object and the direct object are in different cases. The indirect object is in the dative case, and the direct object is in the accusative case. And so that's why you need to understand what these things are. Singular. Singular is just one of something. A book, the book, he, those are all singular versions of something. It's just one of something. Plural, on the other hand, is more than one of something. Books, the books, they. They is also plural because it's more than one person. A conjunction, and, or, yet, but. It's a word that joins two independent things together, either two independent nouns, like I ate an apple and a banana, or you can actually use a conjunction with entire to join two whole sentences. I ate the book and I went to the movies. That's also a valid way to conjoin two sentences with a conjunction. Interjection, an utterance which expresses emotion. Hey, wow, ouch. You either put an exclamation point after it or you put a comma if the feeling's not as strong. That's probably like a video you remember seeing as a child. Hey, what are you doing, with an exclamation point, or hey, comma, give me the book. That's less strong, but you still use an interjection there if you want to express kind of like a more strong emotion. Tense. A tense is what we saw earlier. We went through all the verb tenses earlier. A tense is, for example, the what we talked about, the present, present progressive, present perfect, past, preterite, all those things. Please download the PDF. Don't torture yourself by following this video alone, because it's all there on the PDF. You don't have to memorize everything of what I'm saying. And then finally, we've got transitive verbs. Transitive verbs are verbs that take a direct object. For example, to eat. Typically, you eat something. I eat the apple. I eat the I don't know what you eat. I'm drawing a blank here. I eat the cereal. Okay, I eat is a transitive verb because it takes something. On the other hand, I swim or I think, they don't take an object. You can also say I can eat without an object, but you can't say you can put an object there if you want. On the other hand, with swim, you can never say I swim the swimming pool. You can say I swim in the swimming pool, but you can't say I swim the swimming pool. Or I think the flowers. No, I think about the flowers. You have to put some kind of preposition or something in there that makes the verb intransitive. You can't just slap a noun right after that verb like you can with eat or see or read. I read the book. Okay, you can't, those read, see, eat, those are all transitive verbs, whereas swim is an intransitive verb. You just need to know this when you reason about these things in other languages. And also note that transitive verbs and intransitive verbs in one language don't necessarily carry over to the same things in other language. You can have a verb that's transitive in one language and intransitive in another language, and that's just the way it is. You just have to suck it up and learn these things, just like you learned your times tables. But you are a strong person and you will survive, and you are able to do this. You've got this. You're smart. You can do this. Let's talk about first person, second person, and third person now. When you see in a grammar book first person singular, that's just a fancy way of showing off and saying I. Okay, the I form. Okay, so when you say second person plural, it's you when you're referring to several people. Okay, and unlike other languages, English uses the same word you for one person, for many people, for both formal and informal forms is all you. But actually, in some regions of the United States, they have actually a more nuanced way of saying you. They say you or y'all or all y'all. And although that sounds kind of, I don't know, I want to use the right feeling here. For Northerners, that sounds kind of like colloquial. It's actually like when I actually lived in North Carolina for a year, I really found it's an actually more nuanced way of distinguishing between different quantities of people that actually corresponds nicely to what you have in other languages. And so now actually when I speak, I mean, I'm from Chicago, so I have a northern accent. But when I speak English, I will a lot of times throw in, I won't say y'all, but I will say you all to distinguish between the plural form of you, and nobody notices that. Nobody notices I'm doing that. But I actually appreciate. I don't do it consciously, but I've lived in other countries enough, and I've lived in the South long enough to appreciate that additional level of granularity that construct gives me. And I've translated to just you all. Instead of saying y'all, I say you all, and northern English speakers don't blink when they hear me say that, so everyone wins. First person singular is I. First person plural is we. Okay, that's just kind of like the me us kind of. First person is we, us, me, I, that kind of a thing. Second person is you. Second person singular is you. Second person plural is also you. But again, those are going to be different in different languages. In Spanish, for example, you got tú and vosotros and usted and ustedes. Okay, those are actually different forms of the second person singular and the second person plural. And finally, the third person singular is he, she, and it. The third person plural is they. It's just really when anyone says third person plural, all they mean is they. That's all it is. Okay, so that's why this whole I have to be scared by grammar thing is so nonsensical, because it's just simply not true. Am I done here? Yes, I am done. So I don't know how many minutes that was. I promise you 15 minutes. It's probably more than 15 minutes. But anyway, thank you for bearing with me. I'm going to let's just all take deep breaths now. It wasn't that hard, and especially if I'm telling you, you don't have to memorize this. Just refer to this PDF worksheet every time that you run across those terms in books. And it really, if you want to accelerate your learning process, then you really have to accept that you're going to have to learn some grammar. There's no way around it. The people, methods and books and studies that want to convince you that you don't have to learn grammar, they just want to get your money. They just want to gently part you with their money in exchange to whatever they're selling you, and you'll be able to make some progress without that. But really, to make decent progress, and I don't know, I find it such a shame that grammar is given such a bad rap, because you can actually, with a lesser time investment, make greater progress if you just suck it up and learn some grammatical concepts which aren't really that difficult. And I know with my rambling on, it probably has made it a little bit scary for you, but if you look at the PDF sheet, it's really not that difficult. And especially for the amount of time that you need to invest in order to get a lot of mileage out of these things, I think it's well worth it. Anyway, I will leave you at that. Again, https://polytripper.com/secret.html if you haven't signed up for the course already and gotten the PDF worksheets. And again, if you have any questions, we're real people. I love doing personal outreach, and I'd be happy to help you and motivate you, especially since we're just getting started right now. And thank you again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in part 3 of the course on how to learn any language. Thank you.